Hello, kiddies. This is Jason Falkner, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast. Enjoy.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any pod catchers, like our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Jason Falkner, formerly of Jellyfish.
Yeah, solo artist probably for the last 25 years or so.
He's working on some new tracks.
Yeah, he is. He's got a new album in the works. He's got, did he say 10 tracks recorded?
Yep.
10 tracks recorded. Yeah, and he's also on tour right now with St. Vincent.
Right.
So
that's exciting.
Yeah, he should be like right in the middle of that tour right now, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, what a great interview. Candid. Loved him. And we're excited that we had him on the podcast. But before we get to the interview, what have you been listening to, Jeff Untied?
You're going to laugh at me at this one, but I did have to pick up the re-release of 30th anniversary of the Black Album, Metallica. You know, I already have the other one and played it to death, but it's got a second, which I have not listened to yet, but a second disc of some demos, rarities, and then a live album, some of various songs from the tours during that time frame.
And the Metallica cash cow keeps on cashing in off the Black Album.
Well, yeah. I mean, even besides that, they just released, I thought it was a joke at first, so I had to look it up, but they released a 54-track covers, digital only, covers of tribute to honor their 30th anniversary, and it's a bunch of various artists doing Metallica covers. Opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I was all excited, thinking it was like another Garage Days expanded times 54.
And this is all digital, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. But there's Chris Stapleton, Darius Rucker, the Weezer,
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent.
Yeah. You told me so many things before we got actually to do this intro, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I got news for everybody. I'm not going to buy into that. But I have been listening to Anton Fig's Figments.
Yeah.
And we had Anton on this past February, I believe it was. Yeah. And so we talked in detail about the solo album. And this is really an eclectic eclectic version of music, world music, rock music, folk music, Americana type style. He does a little bit of everything on this album. If you're a fan of Anton, you might remember him from, I believe it was the David Letterman's band, right? Paul Schaefer's band. And he was also the studio member of Kiss a couple of times, right? And works with Ace Frehley.
Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah. So he's worked with the best of the best. Anyway, this solo album is just something that he found motivating. Of all the different type of genres of music that he enjoyed, he wanted to do. And I got to tell you, I'm sold on it. I've been listening to it off and on for months now. So that's what's in the CD player right now. But let's get to this interview.
All right.
Good night. Good night. Jason, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I would like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Jason, this is going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, thank you for all the correspondence. It's been great. So let's start things off here. COVID-19 pandemic is still cramping the music industry. How have you kept yourself busy during these COVID restrictions?
Well, I have a pretty full-blown vintage recording studio in my house. So in my little house. So my house is a studio with a bed somewhere in it. That sometimes I can't find because it's covered in guitars or whatever. But yeah, so I've actually I feel like I've made the most of this last year and a half by just I've recorded a ton of new songs. And my goal, I guess, was, I don't hold myself too tightly to goals because just you don't want to be let down all the time when they don't come to fruition. But and this on the subject of my new record, I've been threatening to release a new record for a decade and haven't done so. So I really have no credibility at all when I'm talking about a new record of mine. But I do insist on letting everybody know that there is a record that there's a record and a half, really.
Cool.
So I was hoping to have everything wrapped up and know how I'm going to release it and all that stuff before all this insane stuff with St. Vincent I'm doing happens, but that I wasn't able to get everything buttoned down. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get it out. And I still have a few things to kind of wrap up as far as the record before it's done. But about 10 songs are final mixes.
Oh, fantastic!
And I do it all in my house. I have I have an old console from the '70s, and I have just enough good outboard stuff where I can make things sound where I can get things to a place where I'm happy with them. They're not hi-fi; they're kind of mid-fi. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of what I like anyway. I kind of like 1975's version of hi-fi, which by today's standards is very mid-fi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, as far as the writing and recording process for this upcoming album that we're waiting for, how did it all work for you, as far as writing and recording new music these days?
Well, some of the songs are actually quite old because, like I said, it's been 10 years since the last record. Some songs are going back 6 years, and I basically, like, the music part of writing and recording comes extremely naturally to me, and it's very fluid and dare I say easy. The lyrics, on the other hand, it's like dental work. So I have a lot of struggles with because here's the problem. I have the same standards for lyrics as I have for the music. Like, I want to say something without saying it too clearly. I want to leave some ambiguity, but I want to. But I do want to tell a story. I don't want it to just be nonsense.
Right.
And that's difficult to do to get to a place where I'm going, this is poetic, this is great, this is what I want to do. I get a ton of like little ideas, like micro ideas for something that I want to say that I think is a unique slant on something. But then just sort of putting up a whole body of words together to form a lyric is challenging to say the least for me. So yeah, some of those songs that I've had laying around, much to my delight, when I threw them back up over this stay-at-home nonsense that we've had to all do. I don't mean nonsense like I'm anti-staying home. I've been happy staying home, but but I'm just saying, like, when I threw some of those songs back up, I was like, oh yeah, this is just as fantastic as I remembered it. I had some of them I hadn't listened to for years, and so then I just was like, okay, stop being an idiot and just to put the work in and write the words. So yeah, so everything now has a music and lyric partnership, and yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh yeah,
and I have written a few. I wrote one song that I'm extremely excited about. That is one of the newer ones, and it is loosely based on what we all have been going through, and unfortunately are still going through with this pandemic.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to write some stupid. I haven't searched, but I'm never going to, because I don't want to, get nauseous. But I haven't searched all the pandemic songs. But I mean, I'm sure there's just a gang of I'm so lonely, and just stop it. So for me, it's a song that's it's a topical issue, but there's a larger picture, which is just isolation, and that's a universal thing that has been going on since the dawn of man. That has nothing to do with a pandemic. But there are some nods to what we've all been going through in this one song. It's kind of like my most epic song on the record. It's about 5.5 minutes long, and I'm super excited to put this record out. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. I mean, I guess if I didn't think it was the best thing I've ever done, I wouldn't be excited about it.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it works.
Fantastic.
Well, not counting pandemic songs, how is it for you normally? Do you listen to a lot of other musicians' work, or do you strictly try to stay away from it just so you can concentrate on your own?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I never actually reference anything when I'm recording, when I'm working. I do it straight up in a vacuum. I don't want to have anything enter my space when I'm working. And I have worked with dozens of people in the studio where they're literally playing a few records as we're gathering in the control room. And then they say, let's do something like this. And to me, I abhor that. I want it to come from a place that has nothing to do with any other recorded music. Of course, I'm influenced by things just like everybody, and of course you can hear a lot of my influences just like you can hear everybody's influences. But as far as the impetus for writing a song or the way I choose to record it, my process is extremely instinctual and fast, even though it's taken me 10 years to make records. But once I'm actually hunkered down, I record very quickly. It's all just insane, and that's getting sounds as well. It's just I know what this particular instrument needs to fill and what it needs to sound like frequency wise and compression wise and all that stuff. And I just kind of do all that stuff very quickly. No listening to anything else. I mean, I listen to a ton of music in my living room. Because I have a killer 70s Macintosh amp and a Swiss Thorns turntable that's a sight to behold, and these crazy early 70s JBL speakers, and but that's all. There's not even a CD player. That's just LPs, and so I'm constantly listening to music outside of my sort of studio bubble.
Yeah, fantastic. Nice. I guess maybe this kind of is an off-the-wall question. We had Nick Pollock on from My Sister's Machine a few months ago, and he was talking about the way he writes his music. He always seems like he says he writes conceptually. I guess maybe it's just kind of that inwardly thing that he does. How does it, when you decide to start writing the lyrics for yourself, how do you kind of put things together? Do you find yourself writing things conceptually as well?
Yeah, there's usually something in the music that is kind of spawning like even if it's just a word or a I hate to sound so Shirley MacLaine, but even like a color or just something kind of abstract that will to me the music is very filmic, so it'll create a sort of a script, and those are the lyrics. But a lot of it is there's a lot of longing in my stuff. There's a lot of there's a lot of sort of scratching at things and like kind of trying to sort of solve kind of crack codes, and so there's but again for me it's like I like things to I really enjoy the idea that a listener can kind of come up with their own interpretation of what I'm talking about. So it's not, I try not to be too succinct with my statements, or my stories. I just want them to be able to kind of take on a life of their own in everybody's imagination, or in the listener's imagination.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, I just wanted to take you back to your I believe it was your first solo album, 1996, presents Author Unknown. Can you talk a little bit about? I was reading on that today, and I was surprised. I saw Alan Johannes you worked with on the song "Miracle Medicine." Can you talk a little bit about that song?
I'm sorry, you were cutting out a little bit, but you said talk about Alan Johannes.
Yeah, and "Miracle Medicine," the song.
Yeah, so that I did a demo for that. That's actually, I think that my 4-track demo is on this spin art collection of my stuff called Necessity of 4-Track Years, and that demo is so cool. The demo's a lot slower. It almost sounds like Black Sabbath or something. It's like it's like the music, like the guitar sound sounds like freaking Tony Iommi. But then for the recorded version, for the album version. That was one where for the most of that record, so that was in the tape, and most of that record I would do drums first, which I still do, but believe it or not, no click track. I'm just playing the drums and humming the song in my head while I'm playing, and that,
cool.
I was a little bit more in shape as a drummer back then because I was playing all the time. I don't mean more in shape physically, but it just as a drummer, like, man, you gotta play the drums often to be a good drummer, and like solid. And I was pretty solid on that record. So that the final version, the drums, I just did them a lot faster. It's almost kind of a Buzzcocks thing. In fact, that drummer John Mayer, the original John Mayer, not the one that everybody knows, the cool John Mayer. He's one of my favorite rock drummers, the guy from the Buzzcocks. He's such a cool. He did all these weird like little syncopations within a straight beat, like all these kind of grace notes. And he was just a 19-year-old little punk kid from England. But man, he's such a cool drummer. So that drum take is kind of my nod to the original John Mayer. And then my friend Alan Johannes.
Yeah.
My dear friends Alan and his partner, his soulmate Natasha Schneider, they had a band called 11.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with them?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Alan is a musical god. I mean, he is a monster in a class all his own.
Yeah.
They're friends, so that was a very casual thing. They both came over just to hang out and hear what I had done on the record thus far, and then I was like, "Do you guys want to play something?" And I just gave Alan a guitar and stomped on a fuzz box and just told him to just go bananas, and mainly just kept the stuff at the end in the outro. But yeah, I call it a bumblebee guitar just because it sounds like a little bumblebee like buzzing around. But he's killer. And Natasha then it was like, oh shit, there's nothing for you to do. I'm so sorry. I feel really bad. But I think it's good with just Alan, and I think she was a tiny bit bummed, but she was fine. But yeah, that was a thrill. I mean, I guess he's the only guest on that record.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I guess kind of on an offshoot of that, as years have kind of gone by, how has your writing methodology evolved over the years? Do you feel that your creativity in writing has kind of matured, or do you still feel like, hey, I'm still the artist I was back in 1996?
That's also a good question. I kind of feel that they're the same, to be honest. I still approach the whole mechanics of writing a song and recording it. I still and the mindset that I was in back then is still relatively the same. It's still I still have the same kind of teenage enthusiasm that I have had my whole life. I think there's just nothing more exciting to me than the writing of a song is cool, but for me the joy is in recording it and all those choices that you make and just turning something from nothing into a freaking song that you can play people, and you're like, yeah, I just did that today in my house, and that there's something really satisfying about that, because I don't know. To me, music is the not only is it the most immediate of all the arts, but it's kind of the most gratifying for me. It's just a song is so powerful to me, and it does so much to spark my imagination and kind of fulfill me. And I know that there's a lot of people that feel that way about music. And so, yeah, my whole process is still basically the same. I just kind of shut the world out and just dream, and then create this thing out of a dream. And back to the lyric thing. I mean, all of my lyrics are, for the most part, not all, but the vast majority of my lyrics are based on some real event or some real person that I actually know, but they are modified. They are embellished. Because if I lived the life that my songs would indicate, I either wouldn't still be alive, or I would be the world's most interesting man. And I'm not the latter, and I'm still alive. So I'm just a mildly interesting guy, but yeah, I just love the whole process of it, and just like I said, when you can create a song and that's another thing that not everybody, and this is not a humble brag or not even a brag at all, but when you can do it all by yourself. Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. There's pros and cons to everything. But, being by yourself, doing it what it obviously allows is a singular vision, and with no interruptions, and no having to explain yourself, and no having to convince somebody that this is a good idea. All the stuff that comes with collaboration. Mm-hmm. Now, on the other hand, collaboration is a phenomenal thing when it works, and you definitely get a different performance. You get a different recorded energy when there's multiple people playing on it, and yeah. I do sometimes miss that energy. But on that note, part of my whole sort of method is that when I'm playing any of the instruments that I'm playing, if I'm playing bass, there are some people that are kind of there's almost like some invisible passengers that I have when I'm playing different instruments, and they are generally, some of my favorite people on any given instrument. And it's not that I'm like trying to sound like them, but I think that having this kind of feeling of like an audience, even though it's a fictitious audience, it's like it makes me do things that the same guy, which is me, who's playing guitar or drums or piano, is not doing the same thing. He wouldn't make that choice because he doesn't have these people standing on his shoulder going, yeah, that's good, or like, you know what I mean? So it might sound like I need a paddy wagon. A butterfly catcher is on his way over here, but that's how I work. That's like that's the God's honest truth. I'm thinking about some of these people, and it's like an audience that I'm playing to while I'm recording. It's really sad, actually. But very lonely guy I am. But it's true.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So you're a multi-instrumentalist. How did it all start for you?
It started with piano. I was, according to my mom's recounting of my very young life, I was playing the piano when my head wasn't even with the keys. I was kind of reaching up above my head and playing the piano. And I learned how to play like Crocodile Rock when I was like a little kid, just by myself. It was a very simple song, but I was still playing it. I was pounding on it like Chuck Berry. My mom enrolled my sister in a music class, like a class with a bunch of other little kids. And, the teacher would draw out just a very simple melody and then play it on her little organ, and all the kids were supposed to play it in unison with her. And then according to my mom, I started playing on the organ in front of my sister's organ, but I was harmonizing with it. And the teacher, when we were leaving, the teacher was like, "Is this your son?" Yeah, obviously he is. You're holding him, but he should be in this class. And so pretty quickly, I don't even remember that class. I vaguely remember what it looked like, but I don't remember being in it. But then very quickly, I was starting to go to this very nice Korean lady for piano lessons. This is at about 4, nice. And then at about 6, she, or maybe even 5, it was maybe a year or so, but this woman said that she had a teacher that she would recommend that was far more advanced than she was, and she just said, this kid is a gifted pianist. So it all started with piano, and I was in piano. I was in pretty intense piano training from, like, the real intense stuff started about 6 to 15 years old. Now during that, I was always embarrassed by the piano. I thought the piano was kind of goofy. I didn't really want to be playing. I loved the classical music, but I just didn't want to be an interpreter of other people's music for the rest of my life. By the time I quit at 15, 16, my teacher had already alerted some of her connections at freaking Juilliard that she had a student that is going to be coming your way. And my parents, this was like, it's golden child stuff, but I was listening to The Damned. And I was like, I don't want to be an interpreter. I don't want to, not to mention they have the highest suicide rate other than certain countries' students. But, man, I just didn't want to do it. So when I quit, it was a very intense thing, heartbreaking for everybody. But yeah, so sorry, piano first, then drums came before guitar. I got a drum set when I was about 7 or 8, because I used to walk around and my mom would be cooking and I'd be playing paradiddles on her butt. and she at one point just said to my dad, like, get him a drum set or he's out of here, kind of thing. And so I got a drum set, and I learned how to play the drums with my dad's 70s Koss headphones that were like, real snug over the ear, like leather earpiece things, that were really super comfortable, and the turntable. And I had, what was I listening to early on? Like Boston and Aerosmith, and, just like playing drum, and I would get the volume just loud enough so I could barely hear me. But I could still hear me, and I would just. But then I become the drummer, and that may even be where, like, this kind of invisible pastor thing comes from, because it was like so insane as a kid to put on frickin' Toys in the Attic and be that drummer. And just like, oh my god! And then for years I was asking for an electric guitar. I had a Yes poster on my wall. I had a Boston poster. I was really into Boston. I had a, I can't remember what else, but I was asking for a guitar forever, and my parents just were like, yeah. Like, I think they were just like, we're not getting him a guitar because they knew the guitar was going to take me away from the piano, which is exactly what it immediately took me away from the piano. I mean, I'm sorry to all the keyboardists out there, but electric guitars are just so damn exciting and cool, and just it's just a different thing, you know. And so they finally got me a guitar, which I still have, and they got me that right around the time I started getting into this new wave thing. So then I got like super into Elvis Costello and XTC and like early Joe Jackson, and just that was a thrilling time. And I remember when I got the guitar, I plugged it in, and I was like, it was like just plunky and like no sustain and not that furry sound. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what distortion was.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I think this guitar is broken. And I was like pushing all the buttons on it and sliding all the switches, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like an electric guitar. It just sounds dumb. And then there was this dude down the street that I thought was like an old man, but he's probably 25, but he had a mustache. And he used to come over to me and my friend's house because we got our guitars around the same time. And we'd have the garage door open, like plunking away at these boring sounding guitars. And this guy came over and he's like, "What's going on, guys?" And we're like, "Hey, man." He's like, "Do you mind if I bring over my guitar? I'll jam with you guys." We're like, "Yeah, come on over." He brings an MXR Distortion Plus. I didn't know what a pedal was. I didn't know anything about it. And he plugs in, and it sounds like Boston. And I'm like, holy shit. And he's like, yeah, bro, you need a distortion pedal.
Yeah.
And it was like a revelation. So then I got an MXR Distortion Plus. My parents got me one, and I just was off. So stoked.
Oh, fantastic. Nice. I kind of want to change gears on here, take this a different direction. But, you know, when it comes to recording new music, you've already alluded to your studios in your home, or you live in your studio, or how it works for you. But do you miss the days of you know, leasing, renting a remote studio at a big facility somewhere and collaborating with artists in that form, or is that just kind of like a lost art for you?
Oh, I definitely miss the sonics of a proper recording studio. I mean, there's nothing like the kind of legendary studios that that sprung up in the 50s and 60s, and then a lot of them were a lot of studios sprung up obviously in the 70s, but then even a lot of the older studios were kind of retuned or refurbed in the 70s. So there's all that wood, and man, there's nothing like that. I mean, having a studio in your house is fine and dandy. I don't own my house, so I can't do anything structural to it. So I just literally have a drum set in the middle of one of the bedrooms and a rug on the floor. So it's a little bit reflective, and I have to do a lot of work as far as gates and compressors and EQ and different processing things to make stuff sound as good as it sounds just naturally in a real studio. So there's a lot more grunt work that I have to do. So, dude, of course I miss those studios, but so many of them are gone, and the ones that still are surviving are just exorbitantly expensive now because there's only a few left. So, it's just it's been a long time since I've been able to handle $2,000 a day.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I just can't do it. Otherwise, I would. I would. Every time I'm in a real studio working on something with somebody, and I'm just hearing the playback in the headphones, and then you run into the control room and listen back to what you did on the speakers, and everything sounds actually better than it sounds in the room. And it already sounds really good in the room because the room has been acoustically constructed for live sound. So it's like, it's a phenomenal thing. And I really do lament the end days of the real professional recording studio, because I don't even know how they're surviving. people are making records in GarageBand.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it's insane. And there's the processing, the digital processing and plugin, world has become so profoundly powerful compared to what it was even 10 years ago. I mean, every year it's just everything, all of that technology sounds a lot better than it did the prior year. So, I mean, where that's going, and that's never going to stop. Nobody's going to pull the brakes on that. So these real studios with real rooms, heaven help them, because they really are amazing. I just can't afford them.
Well said.
All right. Well, in the beginning, we talked a little bit about St. Vincent. Can you tell us a little bit about your plans? What do you have coming up?
Yeah, we are starting rehearsal this coming Monday. We rehearse for a couple of weeks, and then we are out on the road, which I'm kind of surprised that it's not being pushed back, but I do understand that I think the logic right now with management and all that is like it's kind of now or maybe not for a long time.
Yeah.
So like, let's just get you guys out there and hopefully nobody gets sick. We're gonna be traveling in a bubble like a sports team, I guess. And there's not going to be any of the after show parties that I'm so fond of, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we leave in the very beginning of next month, and I think our first show is in Portland, Maine. I can't recall exactly the schedule, but it's just the U.S. and it's about 6 weeks long. It's a long tour.
Yeah. It is. Wow.
Yeah. We're playing the Hollywood Bowl here. We're playing Radio City in New York. We're playing, everything in between those two sizes, and probably some things a little bit smaller than Radio City. But, I've never even been to Radio City. But is that about 4,000?
I don't know. I've never been there.
Yeah, I've never been there either.
Okay, yeah. No, I've never been there either. What's that?
It's on my bucket list.
Yeah. One must attend a show at Radio City. I played Madison Square Garden with Beck about 4 years ago, and that was the first time I'd ever even been inside that place. And man, that was a thrill to play Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this is gonna be fun. I mean, it's a funky band, and it's a bunch of great people, and Annie's super cool. So yeah, should be fun as long as nobody croaks, we don't want any croaking.
No, absolutely not. I guess so. Some of our listeners might not realize you've worked as a producer over the years for many different artists, including Daniel Johnston, R. Stevie Moore, to name a few. Can you talk a little bit more about your work as a producer over the years? Yeah,
so that's something that I produced a few things like when I was really young. A friend of mine had a band. They were recording at A&M Studios here, which turned into the Jim Henson Studios, and I just really liked it. I really like kind of forcing my opinion on people. It's brilliant. It's like I'm the producer, man. Take it easy. But yeah. So I guess the first real foray into it was with that guy Brendan Vincent, who was in the Raconteurs with Jack White, and he was kind of my de facto roommate because my girlfriend at the time was from Detroit, and he is from Detroit, and his girlfriend was from Detroit. So his girlfriend and the girl that became my girlfriend moved out to LA together, and she and this girl and I met and quickly started the thing, and we were kind of living together. But I was on the road with Jellyfish so much, so I was hardly ever in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the my girlfriend's roommate's boyfriend came out from Detroit, and it was this guy Brennan, and we just became pals. And about a year later or something, he had moved to San Francisco, and he sent me a cassette in the mail. And I listened to the cassette, and I was like, "Man, this is so cool!" Like, I like the beginnings of all the songs were so good, and then you could kind of hear him get bored by the end of it. And I was some of the songs weren't really like complete songs even really, but they had really good ideas and really, like I said, really good kickoffs. So I said, man, let's just come down here. I got this little 4-track cassette machine, and let's just I said, trust me, just let me finish these songs. We'll start new versions, and then I'll kind of maybe write some parts that are missing. If this one doesn't have a bridge or whatever. That's what we did, and we did 6 songs, and they came out incredibly. Like we were both, they're amazing actually. They're kind of they're actually out on there's a vinyl EP called Well Fed Boy Demos that is all those 4 tracks that I did with him. Anyway, I was touring with the Grays, and all of a sudden there's a bidding war for him based on these demos that we did. Literally, there was no intention in it at all. There was no like, hey, let's you're gonna get a record deal, brother. It was just like we're just having fun making songs and making these kind of weird experimental rock songs, and a bidding war ensued between Virgin and Columbia, and my advice was to go to Virgin, which he did, and then we went to New Orleans and made a record at Daniel Lanois' old studio, which was in the French Quarter, and so that was the first thing that I produced in a real studio that came out on a major label and blah blah blah, and there's a bittersweet end to that story, but suffice to say that it was really fun making that record, and then I didn't produce anything for quite a while, and then because that was like in '95, and then I got real busy with my own records,
right.
and then I guess the first real thing after all that was Daniel Johnston, and that came about because his manager Tom Gimbel, who's a friend of mine, was wanting to manage me, and I went with somebody else, but he's a really great guy, and he's very he doesn't take things personally like that, and he called me one day and he's just like, I have this idea, man, like you doing your one-man band thing to Daniel Johnston, and I was like, absolutely not, like. Because I'm hyper aware of Daniel's fan base and the types of records he's made, and they're a lot more beautifully crude, and I say beautifully because I love that stuff, and I love kind of less polished things, but I can't do that. I have tried to do my version of the Velvet Underground, and it just sounds like me. It doesn't end up, I can't get that like slightly askew thing where, it's probably because I'm playing everything, but so I was very reticent to do that, because I just thought, first of all, his fans are going to be like, what the hell is this? And so he's like, well, just think about it. And so I thought about it for the night, and then I decided to I was up for the challenge. And he said, okay, so Daniel, is fairly, he has some schizophrenia. So, he could see things, and, he has visions and stuff. And so he said, you should meet Daniel, because, it won't be any reflection on you or anything, but he might think you're a demon. And so you should meet him first to make sure that he doesn't think you're a demon. And then if he doesn't, then all systems go. And so I met him and his brother Dick, who's the sweetest guy in the world, and Tom, the manager, at a little cafe that I used to go to. They came out here, and Daniel was like, I miss Daniel. He was such a sweet guy. He was like, so you're the producer? And I was like, well, I'm sometimes a producer. I don't know if I'm the producer. And he's like, you like the Beatles? And I was like, yeah, I like the Beatles. I worked with Paul McCartney. And he's like, what? And then we drove around in I had a 70s Mercedes. We drove around in my Mercedes, and we got him I got him like a case of Snapple, because all he drank was Snapple and chain smoke. And so we got like a carton of cigarettes, case of Snapple, went back to my house, and I recorded 2 days of him playing basically every new song that he had. There was high double digits, and then he went away, and I made that record basically by myself. A lot of people don't know that, but he wasn't completely capable of making an album at that point, and because of his sort of mental health, and I took his everything that he had done, and just my awareness of him, which wasn't, I wasn't like an aficionado, but I knew enough about him to be very sympathetic to what he does. But I also wanted to do something that he had never done, and I knew that he, just worshipped the Beatles. And so I, as he was leaving, that I said, hey, what do you think about like me taking you into outer space a little bit? Like some kind of, like ELO, and like arrangements and kind of things that are a little bit more up in the stratosphere, as opposed to firmly rooted on the planet. And he's like, I love ELO. And I said, okay, well, so that's enough, because what that means for me is all sorts of stuff. And it just meant that I felt like I could get adventurous and not have to stay kind of like shackled to this, organic thing. And so that's what I did. So that was a blast. And from that, I got, and the biggest feather in my cap regarding that is that up until, he passed away, unfortunately, every time I would see him, he would say that the record, first of all, he called it my record. He's like, I love your record. And I'm like, you mean your record, the one that I did? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. Because, it's your record. It has your name on it. But he told his family and the manager that was his favorite of his records, like multiple times. So to know that, just like, man, that just meant so much to me, because I really love that guy. He's amazing. And so I got kind of in this zone with these, what I like to call sort of, these guys are like kind of big fish in small pond guys in these very varying parts of Europe. One of them is this guy, Anna, and it's Anne, and then Soldat, Soldaat. Anna Soldat is, I love the records that we made. We made his first two solo records. And he is from Amsterdam, and he was in a quite popular sort of 90s band in Amsterdam called Daryl Ann. And he contacted me, his manager contacted me in Amsterdam, and they just were like, Anna wants to make a record with you. And so he flew out here. We never met. He flew out here from Amsterdam and found a, little motel for him. And we made his first record, which is called In Another Life, which is still, I just love that record so much. So yeah, a lot of these records, it's just me and one person. It's a solo artist.
Oh, cool.
But the two of us are the band. And a lot of them, I am primarily the band, but we're making all the decisions together. And it's these wonderful experiences I've had with these people that, become lifelong friends, because it's such an intimate thing to meet somebody at the airport, go back to your house, and start making music. It's like, it's not normal.
Yeah.
But it escalates the whole process of getting to know somebody tenfold. And so I've done 2 records with Anna Soldat, and then this guy Bent Van Looy, who I just love to pieces, and his first name is Bent, Bent, Vanlooy. and he is from Ghent. Yeah, that's right. So Ben from Ghent, Belgium, and this guy is so good. I mean, he's a household name in Belgium. Can't really walk down the street without people sending him a coffee or a beer or whatever. But again, completely unknown, even in neighboring European countries. It's a bizarre thing. It's very regional in Europe, like that. You know, there could be somebody who's like number one, and then they've never heard of him in Holland, and it's and it's 20 minutes away. But I've made all three of Ben's solo records. He was in a band also that was successful in Belgium called Das Pop, and he came out. We made his first record. I guess it's maybe like 10 years ago, and then we made a second, and then we made the third, and the second record was #1 record in Belgium, most played song on the radio that year, even more than the Beatles, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the third guy I'll talk about in respect to these European dudes is this guy Tom Hell, who is from Oslo, Norway. And again, Tom Hell is a big guy over there. Like, everybody knows him, and he's successful, and he he's on TV and stuff, as panels for judging music, things like that. But unknown outside of Norway. And we did a record called Suddenly Past that is just achingly beautiful. And it's kind of a Harry Nilsson kind of vibe that he has a little bit. It's fantastic stuff. And and then Stevie Moore, I was a big fan of his for decades, and we just kind of, I forget who instigated it, but we got in contact through like MySpace back in those days, and just had kind of a pen pal vibe happening, and then he came out here and was working with our friend Ariel Pink, and then he and I were like, we got to make a record together, man, the two of us. So he came out here for like 2.5 weeks, and we made that whole Make It Be record in 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And and that is a breadth of work. I mean, all of those records I'm talking about were, but the generally I need about 4 weeks, and that's not necessarily including the mixes, but the way I work is I'm mixing all day, like while things are being tracked, while things are being recorded, I'm constantly tweaking what's already in the track and just kind of getting it into shape. And so by the end of the day of recording a song, it sounds pretty damn close to a final mix.
Cool.
So, but yeah, that Stevie record is something that I'm also like, I mean, all of these records I'm very proud of, but just being able to work with that guy who I'm such a fan of his, especially about the first 5 records, just blow my mind. And, they're kind of these bizarre collage, slightly public access, just kind of rough and raw and just brilliant. So, and that guy doesn't have a bad idea. I mean, it's kind of amazing. He doesn't have a bad idea, and he doesn't play anything on. I mean, he's a great bass player. He's playing bass on the vast majority of the record that we did, and it's just, you're never like, oh man, like somebody else should play that, or you're not even close. I mean, he's great. So I'm a big fan.
Fantastic. All right, so I got one last question for you. This is kind of like a combined 2 question, but on a satisfactory level, your work as a producer opposed to working as a musician, do you think it would ever lead you down the line of saying, hey, I'm just kind of satisfied with doing the producing now, I can give up doing the art of it all and just kind of stay on the other side of the glass? I guess, how does it all work for you as you look toward the future?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's like all of these other things I do them sort of because I can. Like, circling back to playing in other people's bands and all that stuff, that gives me probably the least amount of satisfaction, although it's a different satisfaction. And it's certainly fun to kind of insert myself in other people's universes and visions, but no, I can't see ever not writing songs and wanting to release them. I will say that, part of the reason that it's taken me so long to put out a record, I mean, that there was a long kind of frozen era for me where I just kind of rolled over and I didn't stop making music and I didn't stop listening to music or caring about it. And there was never anything that spilled over as far as, a jaded thing where I just like didn't, where I was like, I don't even want to touch a guitar, that never happened. But what I did get disenfranchised with is the entire process of releasing an album and relying on the public to be interested enough to get into it, or B, even get what I'm doing. So that kind of made me I hate to say it because it's really not who I am, but I kind of gave up a little bit for a good period of time. And during that time is when I started playing with other people and just staying musically active, because that's it really is the only thing that gives me joy. But no, I would never give up on writing and recording my own stuff. And I think that once I get this new record done and out, and then it does whatever it's going to do, that's fine. I'll accept whatever it does. As far as how many people it reaches and all that stuff. Then I think that I'll be sort of like a lot more prolific, and just releasing things a lot quicker. I'm certainly not going to take another 10 years to make an album.
Yeah. Please don't.
I mean, I might not be alive. Let's be honest. I mean, nobody knows if they're going to be alive. So, yeah, I would never just retire to the other side of the glass.
Oh, well, great news.
Yeah.
We kind of ran out of our allotted time. Is there anything else that you would like to plug or promote that we did not cover tonight?
No, I think that's it, man. It's just it's just all about this upcoming solo record. I wish I had dates and stuff for release so that could be plugged, but I do not have that now. But maybe I can tell you guys, and you can just slip in a little. Yeah. Maybe I'll record a little commercial for you.
There you go.
Well, hey, you know what we could always do is have you come back on and do an intro with us for another artist, and you can plug your new album when it's out or when the dates are ready, and we can kind of just throw it into another episode. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah, man. So
sounds good.
All right, well, before we let you go, this is how it's going to work. We have about 3 weeks' worth of episodes we have to release, and then Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get it all ready for you. And then as soon as it's ready, I'll send it to you immediately. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
We had a lot of fun.
Fantastic interview.
Yeah, great chat with you guys.
Hey, man, take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You can have the air you need, but you best not take one breath. Hey, roll the dice. Take your chances. Everybody knows the game is fixed, there is no prize. Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out